The Christmas Hotel by Jollylove. Chapter 6. Germany, Day 2. The next day, Draco walked into the small activities room where Harry was currently watching Daniela and Jacques bicker in French while playing chess. He had an inkling that these two liked each other. So when Harry looked up and saw the Slytherin standing there, leaning against the doorway, he grinned and got up. "Hey there." Draco chuckled. "Hey there yourself. Do you want something?" Harry asked with a grin. "Or are you just stalking your guests?" "Oh, yes, as every hotel manager would do, certainly," the Slytherin answered with a laugh. "I was going to ask you if you wanted to join me in walking through the city." Harry grinned and nodded. "Sure. I feel like a third wheel here anyways." Daniela and Jacques looked up and shook their head. "You're not a third wheel." Instead of replying, Harry just waved with a grin. And so they happened to walk through the historical old town of Cologne. Draco surprisingly knew a lot of facts about the city in general, though their topic then quickly changed to something personal. "How did you end up in a Christmas hotel?" Harry asked, curious. Draco chuckled. "I was traveling after you freed us children from going to Azkaban, and after 3 years I felt like going home. However, England wasn't that anymore. So I had to realize that I was actually looking for a place to call my home. I moved into the Christmas hotel a month later, and 7 months later the manager left unexpectedly. It seemed like the perfect thing to do, so I joined." Harry hummed and nodded. Sounds like a great place to live in." "It is. Also, as a manager, I do get to decide where we go next, which is just as nice." Draco smirked and shrugged his shoulders. "And you? What have you been up to since we last met?" "I've played the last World Cup as Seeker for England, actually. Surprised you didn't hear about that." Draco snorted. "I was out of the country, darling. I thought you were an Aura." Harry shrugged his shoulders and smirked. It did annoy him that everyone seemed to know what he was doing all the time. However, that sadly came with the title of being the boy who lived and the man who conquered. "After we won the World Cup, there wasn't anything to go further, so I changed careers and went into law. I followed Ron into the Aura Force, and surprisingly, I moved up ranks like I was flying again. Ron and I had a heart last year because of that." Draco sighed and shook his head. I can understand. He was an Aura from the beginning, and he's still the same level as before, and then there you come and you mount to new levels he didn't even know existed." Harry nodded. "Exactly. And now Kingsley has just asked me to take over the ministry as minister." He shook his head. "I'm far too young and inexperienced to take over something like that." "And you would once again be on top of everything and would need to change careers again. What would you choose next?" Draco asked with humor in his voice. Chuckling, Harry shook his head. "I guess I could try being a clown for a change. Everyone's already looking at me all the time. Shouldn't be so hard to play a fool in front of everyone." Draco snorted. "I'm pretty sure you could do whatever you want and they would all support you." "No, there's one thing I can't do." "What's that? The next Dark Lord?" Laughing loudly, Draco nodded and clapped him on his back. "Okay, yeah, one thing you probably shouldn't try, darling. So, when should you have decided if you want to accept the new position?" Harry huffed. "Did you not listen to me? I don't want to be the minister." "There have to be some laws you want to undo," Draco asked with a shrug. There were a few, yes. However, Harry knew that he did not have the energy nor the capacity to do something he didn't like for longer than a year. And changing laws was probably going to take a decade at least. "Maybe I just send a resume to the Christmas hotel for something." "The couple who owns it lives in Poland. Their names are Agatha and Mikolaj Kaminsky. They're usually here around Christmas, so maybe you can hand it in person." Harry laughed and shook his head. "Thanks, Draco. Will you act as one of my references?" "Absolutely not. I'm your schoolyard bully, darling. We don't act as character references." With that, Draco winked at him and pulled him into the cathedral to look at nice old art. Harry sniggered quietly and followed the Slytherin, to where he wanted to bring him.